Armenians killed by Ottoman Turks in 1915. World leaders, including the presidents of Russia, France and Serbia, have gathered in the Armenian capital for the 100th anniversary of the massacre of up to 1.5 million people. It's called a genocide by about 24 countries, but Turkey angrily rejects use of the term. The Armenian president said we have to find a solution before humanity once again breaks its promise that something like this should never happen again. The commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide is a new starting point for the struggle against this kind of crime. There was also an address from the President of France, which became home to many survivors of the massacre, among them the parents of the famous singer Charles Aznavour. The President said commemorating a genocide is not about opening a trial, it's to evoke the suffering and the pain of those who survived and their children. It's about recognizing a tragedy that was so big that it struck the whole of humanity. The Armenian president called on more countries to recognize the killings as genocide.
Today, Armenians make up one of the largest ethnic communities in Istanbul. Many came to the Armenian Patriarchy Mother Mary Church for the main annual memorial service for their ancestors who perished in the mass killings of World War I. For the first time, a member of the Turkish government was present. The EU minister said Turkey respected the sorrow that its Armenian brothers had experienced.
Dünyada barışın sağlanabilmesi için.
The move was welcomed by Armenian religious officials. For us, it's important to have this date for peace, he says. To learn from grief and not repeat the same mistakes is a duty for all individuals.
Bulunmak her bireyin dünyada görevi.
It's much more important for this land, which is the birthplace of civilizations. We have to show the rest of the world what kind of civilization we're from.
Dünyaya nasıl bir geçmiş kültüre sahip olduğumuzu da göstermemiz gerekiyor.
The acting patriarch welcomed international support for Armenia, but said politicizing the nation's pain made it worse. That's seen as a criticism of recent declarations calling the wartime death genocide. This man says, I have grandparents who also died. We're experiencing the pain of that loss. But when we look at it today, people in Turkey, people around the world must know about the suffering of the Armenians. People should approach this in the right way. Nobody should try to exploit this event. A message from President Erdogan was read out at the service. Turkey shares Armenians' pain for the sorrowful events of 1915, it said. Our correspondent says the memorial service was held at the Mother Mary Church in Kumkapi. For the first time in history, Turkey was represented at ministerial level. With this step, Ankara tried to strengthen its position of saying, we have no problem with Armenians, we share a common grief.
Euronews, Istanbul.
The mass killing of Armenians by Ottoman Turkish forces a century ago was genocide, according to Germany's parliamentary speaker. Norbert Lammert has told the Bundestag that his country's own past makes it important to speak out. What happened during World War I in the Ottoman Empire, witnessed by the world, was genocide, he says. It wasn't the last one of the 20th century. In Jerusalem, hundreds of Armenians have been protesting outside the Turkish embassy, also demanding that Ankara recognizes the killings as genocide.
Not accepting the Armenian genocide, it's like refusing it. So we demand by the world, to the world, and we demand from the Turks to recognize the Armenian genocide, to make justice for the 1.5 million and to pay for that.
In Lebanon, thousands joined a march near the capital Beirut to remember those killed a century ago. One protester said they wanted to show Turkey how it had failed in erasing Armenians from the world. And this was the scene in Tehran, hundreds of Iranian Armenians chanting death to the fascist government of Turkey.
Silvard Atacan was 3 years of age when mass killings were taking place in southern Turkey in 1915. She was saved by French soldiers, along with her parents and sister, but her cousins, aunts and uncles all perished. She says, if the Turks recognize the genocide and murder of so many Armenians, then all those persecuted Armenians, their descendants who told the world about what happened, will return to their homeland and their mission will be completed. A century after the killing of her relatives and hundreds of other Armenians in Ottoman Turkish lands, we look back on this footage from World War I, when Turkey, as we know it today, did not exist. The Ottoman Empire extended its influence to the gates of Russia and the Middle East. Today, Turkey admits that around 500,000 Armenians were killed then, but says a similar number of Turks also lost their lives. Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu has said Ottoman Armenians would be remembered on the 100th anniversary of the deportation and deaths. Armenia has renewed calls for the 1915 massacre of up to 1.5 million of its people to be internationally recognized under one label. In the run-up to the commemorations, the debate has been reopened over whether a civilization that flourished for 4 millennia and suffered deportation and death at the hands of Ottoman Turkish forces constitutes what some scholars call the genocide. Certain international institutions, such as the European Parliament, recognise what they call the genocide. Along with several countries, such as France and Russia, Turkey and some historians reject the terminology. The UK and the US are among those using different terms to describe events. The debate has angered the Turkish president, who used an emotive choice of words to imply he could have deported Armenian nationals living in Turkey at any time. He says it is out of the question for there to be a stain, a shadow called genocide on Turkey. However, last year Davutoglu made an unexpected step forward by offering his condolences to Armenians who died in 1915.
100 years on, they stand together